Hi there. So today we want to talk about, we're going to learn from two veteran photographers, and together they have about 50 years of photography experience of shooting in weddings, events, wildlife, sports, and in photojournalistic situations. We're going to hear from Vagan from Vahagraphy. Hi, Vagan.
Hello.
And from a special guest from Patrick Smith. He's from the LA area. He's a photojournalist. He has about 2 decades of experience in this. So you're going to hear from them. And if you're someone who is about a year's experience in photography, you're with your gear, you're trying to understand how to improve your photography. What are those 5 or 10 things to remember to help you grow as a photographer, to kind of develop your skills, right? I think a lot of that begins with the mindset. So, Patrick, what would you tell them?
Yeah, a few tips that I wish I would have known in the beginning were, well, number one, I will say that people are so lucky these days. There's so much content online. There's so many ebooks out there. So my first tip would be, watch as many videos as you can. Don't be afraid to, buy an ebook from a photographer that you enjoy watching, or a hard copy book. That's definitely how I learned back in the day before YouTube. But practice. I mean, just constantly practice your craft. But learning through others, their books or their channels that you enjoy watching is hugely important for young or starting out photographers. But some tips from me would be to, when you're thinking about upgrading your camera or maybe buying a new lens, unless your camera is like totally holding you back from what you're trying to do and you can't accomplish what you want, I always recommend upgrading your lenses. So upgrade that glass, get the better glass, because that's going to have way more of an impact on your image quality than, say, going from a 16 megapixel camera to a 24, or 24 to 30, whatever the case is. Better glass is always going to have a much bigger impact on your photography. Another tip is, get low, get high, get dirty. Don't be afraid to lay on the ground or hold the camera over your head or get a ladder, whatever it takes. Get those different angles, maybe stuff that other people don't think about, or like with my wildlife and sometimes even in photojournalism, I'm not afraid to lay in the dirt down on the ground and on my belly and get that shot, whatever it takes. So that was a good tip that I learned from a wildlife photographer.
It's worth the shot.
Yeah, it's worth the shot, even if you have to hike through some creeks or riverbed, whatever it is. Yeah, just keep that gear dry, but
And I think they become fun experiences later on, that you're just you're like peeping out of the window of a moving train just to get that perspective. I've seen people do crazy stuff.
And then
I think what you do, Patrick, you have to have patience in what you do, big time.
Yeah.
That's a great tip. I mean, you do wildlife, you do, photojournalism.
Yeah,
in both patience.
In both genres too, because with the photojournalism, breaking news isn't always happening. So there's can be days in between, or sometimes weeks in between the big stories or the fires. With the fires, there can be months, without a big fire in your area. I mean, there's always a fire somewhere, it seems like, in California. But the other thing I was going to say is, it's fun, and I'm the first to admit I love talking gear, and I read about gear all the time, watching reviews and stuff like that. But my advice is to just always remember that these are just tools. A camera and a lens, it's like our paintbrush and our paint. It's just a tool at the end of the day. So the most important thing is your ability. I honestly believe, and not to discourage anybody, but I honestly believe that certain people are born with artistic ability, just like with painting or music. You can definitely practice and learn as much as you can, and you will become better. You will become a good photographer someday, if not, within a few years.
can you learn visual conceptualization, as in, because you're saying that uh, do more with what you have, so I think the focus
Yeah.
is on doing so. Visual conceptualization, how can one improve that? I'd like to hear from both of you, Patrick and Vagan.
Well, first of all, um, going back to what you were saying about, I'll get on that, but let me just. I think the biggest tip
Yeah.
you can give a new photographer. You said a year in.
Yeah, year and a half.
Is patience, because it has nothing to do with photography. You enjoy the process. You're not going to be the next best photographer in a year's time. Hey, you might have the talent. You need to put the time into practicing, getting better, knowing composition, lighting. Have patience. You're going to get better as time goes on. But if you expect to one day wake up and be the next, Joseph Karsh, that's really not going to happen. So patience, practice, and enjoy the process.
Yeah, because I relate to that, because if you don't have the patience, then you might start criticizing yourself too harshly.
Yeah, enjoy
right,
the
and then you
process.
might just
Enjoy the process.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a process, and if you think you're just gonna get out there and be the next rock star, every musicians, they practice their ass off. They practice, they get better and better.
Yeah.
You might get lucky and take an amazing shot and get a lot of note. You might be recognized for that picture, but can you, in a consistent basis, do that? Anybody could get lucky and take the best picture ever, but can you do that again? Do it again. Are you a one-hit wonder? So yeah, practice, have fun, and enjoy the process. Anyway, back to your other question. Sorry.
Yeah, the other question was, how can we learn visual conceptualization? Is it by watching a lot of other pictures, or is it like just seeing what naturally attracts you, or should you copy someone? Or how have I mean, I'm like, it's a perplexing question. How does someone get to his or her own thing?
It's a combination. Yeah. It's a combination of a lot of things, right, Patrick? I mean, it's your style. It's what you learn, right?
Yeah, I think that we all either consciously or unconsciously copy in a way or imitate other people, or we might see an image that blows us away, and we might want to try something similar, or someday that opportunity presents itself to get that similar look or image. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, as long as you're not just straight up plagiarizing someone's work. I think it's great to get inspiration from the people that you look up to. But I definitely think that you should work on your own style, and don't be afraid to break the rules. There's all these rules to compositions, or tips, at least rule of thirds, golden ratio, this and that. Don't be afraid to break those rules, and put your subject in the corner of the frame, or whatever the case may be. But I think
that might look really cool.
Yeah, I think people have it so easy these days compared to, I know Vihags maybe can share on this too, but I started with film, and at best you're going to wait an hour or two before you saw any of your pictures, if not a day or two. And so to be able to instantly see your work, and what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong, that's huge. I remember when I switched to digital, those first couple of years I got way better at photography. That's just being able to see what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong, and then having the ability to fix that instantly, with the next shot. Do you need to change your lighting, change your position, all that kind of stuff.
Cost of failure is so low right now, so
correct.
Why not try just crazy stuff? And then I love that idea of breaking rules. I mean, know the rules, perhaps know those basic composition rules, but just do what feels right. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, definitely. And don't be afraid to, if you like, I do wildlife and sports and stuff. I like to once in a while just slow the shutter speed way down and try a panoramic. They don't always work out, but when they do, they're unbelievable and so artistic. Or I've even done shots where I zoom the lens while I'm taking the picture to give it that effect, you know.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of ways to break the rules, but like you said, as long as you know them, know the different compositional tips, but they're just tips at the end of the day, So don't be afraid to do your own thing.
I think
so there are no rules.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
I think that it's not necessarily called copying; it's being influenced by.
Correct.
Yeah.
You're influenced by many artists.
Yeah.
And you bring them together, and they motivate you to do your thing, but then you bring in your own style, and that style can take some time to develop. You might start with one thing, you might want to do one thing, but then over time, you might develop yourself into like a niche. You might start, I'm good at this, I'm good at that, And if your specialty is something where not a lot of people are doing, and you're really good at it, my suggestion to that photographer that's a year in and is really good at a niche, pursue that. Don't do what everyone else is doing. Do something that's your own love, and you gotta love it. If you don't love what you do, and you're just chasing the paycheck, get out.
What do you guys think?
Yeah.
What do you guys think about street photography as a teacher of sort of a practice for photography skills in general, whether it's portraiture or photojournalism?
I definitely think it's a great segue into photojournalism. If you're good at street photography, then you're going to be good at photojournalism for sure. But a point that I wanted to get back to, and it might not be important in every genre, but it's definitely important in most of them, and that is know your subject. So if it's wildlife and you're into birds in flight, you should know everything, or at least enough to get by on every one of those bird species that you're photographing.
Wow.
If it's lions or hippos, learn the behavior of the animal. And same with sports. I know all the rules of the different sports. I've played most of them growing up, so I can anticipate what might happen on a third and long in football. They're probably going to pass, and I'm going to cover their top receiver, and that way I have a higher chance of getting the shot when he jumps up in the air to catch the ball. So research your subject, know as much as you can about them, and that'll help you immensely.
Yeah, know your
and Vagan, that applies to what you do as well, right? In wedding, because there's so many rituals of so many different cultures.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much I've done this for so long that I already know when they're gonna put on the rings, and what's gonna happen next. But event photography is a whole different thing with what Patrick's doing. I kind of don't want to talk about weddings right now because he does much.
I used to do them. I know what you mean. they can be stressful too.
Yeah, his work is like sports photography. I mean, I do concerts. I love concerts. But you have to kind of know the songs, right? You got to know what the breaks are, the drum fills, the guitar solo. You got to know. Same thing with sports. You got to know the athlete, his mannerisms. But going back to your question, as far as how to visualize, photography.
Yeah.
When I was starting out, I think lighting is key to any genre of photography. A light can break or make the image. So what I started doing is watching a lot of movies and just looking at how they light